good evening and welcome to A Word with Joy. This is Joy Bennett, your producer and host. This is our 7th episode. Can you believe it? And I'm just thrilled today to have a very special friend, actress, writer, chef, and what's the other thing you do? A voiceover, especially voiceover actress that's here today, Linda Fontaine, all the way from Brentwood, which is about 10 minutes drive from here. Thank you for coming in. Very happy to introduce her. She's a good friend and a very talented actress and creative person. So Linda, welcome.
Thank you, Joy. I'm so delighted to be here with you. This is just so much fun.
And I noticed on your resume you've done a lot of voiceovers for Disney, for commercials, for all kinds of things. You've been in films. You've been in commercials. You have a myriad of professional projects in your background. And I also know you're a writer, too. You've got a few novel and screenplay under your belt there, which is quite amazing. And you're a cordon bleu trained chef. Now, that's a lot on your plate, excuse the pun.
Yeah.
Which is your, it's hard to say what your favorite is, but which is your favorite thing to do? Or are they all equally? If you had your druthers, if I could just do one thing, completely the only thing.
So much living to do in this life experience. So I have found, Joy, that over the years, whatever is going on in life, the actual living of life, I have found ways and means and also an outlet in the arts. So at different points in my life, there were different outlets. There was the acting, and I started in Chicago. And then I came to Los Angeles. There was still the acting, and there was the writing also in Chicago, by the way. It started there. And as life progressed, as I raised a family, then the writing took over because life had to be expressed in art. And in this pandemic, for example, writing really has taken precedence in a way that I never expected. I'm actually writing my second book now. It was a pilot that I started during the pandemic that was very fun to write. And now I'm writing a companion book to go along with it. It's called Under the Neon Lights.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
Yes.
Now, that's a companion to...
That is a companion to a pilot I wrote but with the same title during the pandemic.
That's
and
fabulous.
Then I have also a book that I had written way back in Chicago and refined here called Enter Dramatic. And so I have a pilot for that now and an animated pilot series for that.
That's awesome.
So writing has really...
You've been busy.
I've been busy. I've been in front of this darling computer, which may it never go down, because
back up to the cloud. Back up to the cloud.
I'm backing it up to the cloud. I send emails to myself.
Thank goodness.
So yes, I think that it just we do, and to answer your question, we do what is fun and feels right at the moment. So
That's
all
true.
of these things, including the chef. I mean, during the pandemic, Joy, I just started to bake for people. If people wanted pastries.
The lucky people.
And I brought to
And you are a professional caterer, too.
I can be when asked.
Great.
I don't push that because that is quite a
Well, let me tell you, I've had some of her food, and it's delicious. It's healthy. I've never had, I think you've made tuna melt with oil instead of mayo in there. Olive oil.
I think
like a Greek
so. Version of
it was really delicious, and her desserts are to die for. Oh my gosh! Don't get me started. Anyway, so one of my questions had, as an amateur, in this business of voiceover, do you have any tips for those of us out there that are trying? Maybe we're trying a podcast, or we have an important interview, or we're just trying to sound professional. Do you have a few tips for the non-professionals as far as voiceover work goes?
I'd like to say, first of all, that there isn't a person on the planet that doesn't have a fabulous voice. The voice comes from someplace way beyond, and it's theirs, it's individual. Even if you sound like somebody else, it's your voice. And if you want to feel free in using that, for example, in a podcast, you just let the improvisation go. Just let it be what it is. Let something move you from within, but trust that your voice is not only enough, it's fantastic.
That's a great tip. I like that.
I
like that.
Oh.
It's so true, though, because I know I've studied singing, and I know so much is freeing the breath and not clenching your throat and things like that. You know, if you can just breathe and really have fun with it. I mean, I think people can tell. They kind of can sense, oh, she's doing this for a class assignment and just slogging through. Or, hey, this person really loves this stuff. And I do. I love this podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic. It totally
it's
comes
just
through.
fun. It never disappoints. I mean, kind of like, oh, gee, it's another time podcast. And once I get started, it's so much fun.
Oh,
and it's a challenge. You know, they say as you get older, keep learning, keep educating yourself, and there's so much to learn. I'm learning Italian now because we're going to go to Italy this fall.
That is
and
exciting.
That is so much fun. And it's so funny because my dog, where the puppy is right now, he's got an Italian dog sitter. And it's this dog sitter and I'm trying to talk in Italian to this guy, and he's great. I mean, he's very, very, he's fluent.
Yeah.
So who would have thought that, it works out like that?
I know.
So basically, I know you did a lot of work for Disney for the voiceover on the Disney projects. Is it true what they say about Disney? I don't want to get sued here. If you don't come in to work on Saturday, you might as well not show up on Sunday. Or was your experience with Disney as a voiceover actress a pleasant one?
Yeah, my experience.
Don't sue me, Disney.
Oh, no. Well, for me, I'd like to say this, that I'm very much a proponent that there are no mistakes. So I was actually recording auditions from home for voiceover work, and our system went down. So I needed a place to find a microphone to audition. I walk in and audition at the Mark Grau Studios, which is in Burbank. And he says to me, Mark Grau, he says, oh, I have this audition for Disney. Would you like to do it? And I said, yes, great. And I guess the motherliness came out on that audition, but I booked an audiobook. And that audiobook led to 75 plus audiobooks.
My gosh.
I recorded them all at the Mark Grau studio. So occasionally there was probably a person or two from Disney there, a person or two on a tour that was listening in on the session. But over 3 years, I did these darling books. Like I would get inside out the book, and I go, this is an amazing story. I love the idea of the emotions coming forth and with this little girl's experience and how she handles it. And then it turns out the movie comes out later. I didn't know it at the time. So I would see some of these things before the movies came out.
That's great.
And I would do these books for children and for maybe the adults that were sitting there with their little kids. And it was a very sweet, positive, uplifting, joyous time.
That's great. That is awesome. Give me, I know when they do, I've seen on, movies and things, the voiceover taping, they'll say, okay, give me a little more color, or give me a little more. Do they do that with you, or is it just kind of, you just have an instinct to do it the right way, or do you get a lot of direction, or?
It depends on the director and the project. Some of the best directors, I worked with a director, for example, on a video game, and he just said, do 2 takes. He was extremely seasoned. He didn't want to give a lot of direction, and I would do 2 takes, 2 picture, and that was it. But I've also had directors that will say things like you did. The very first audition, for example, that I did with my daughter, I booked the job, she booked the job. We went in on that job together as mother and daughter, and it was wild. They disappeared, they came back, they tried to make things, it was all over the map, and it was her first job, and she handled it very well. And I thought, great, she can do this business. And so it varies, but if you have someone say what this backstory is, for example, when you're doing a video game, it is so much better, Joy, because then you know what kind of emotion to bring. And they usually say 2 takes, sometimes 3.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
not bad, though.
And they pull on the spot.
That is not bad.
The take that they like.
Yeah,
they pull it on the spot.
Cool. That's cool. And mentioning your daughter, who's a very talented voiceover actress and lovely young lady. and she's got some very impressive bookings of her own. So it's kind of fun to see it run in the family, and it's so interesting. Um, my other question was, did you want to mention any projects that you're looking for to promote, or to, that you want to get help with or funding for, or whatever, or want to have people aware of?
Yes, that would be so nice. That would be great. Well, I have actually 3 different projects right now, and the one that I just finished is being considered by an agent right now for representation, although the dear agent that we had passed on. So we're
I'm so
waiting
sorry.
to hear from this agent, but I'm also submitting.
Uh-huh.
It's called Enter Dramatic, and it's a book that I have written that also has, again, the pilot and so forth with it.
Mhm.
The idea of the story is with the city of Chicago as a backdrop, and salt and peppered with delectable chocolate pastry recipes and foodie romps. 16-year-old Nicole Waverly dives into acting and dating after her Egyptian father's sudden death, and discovers in the bright footlights on stage a new life recipe for what's on the other side of a devastating loss of a treasured loved one.
Oh, that sounds great.
This one I wrote during
That
the
sounds
pandemic,
wonderful. Yeah.
especially finished it, especially with people and the suffering that has gone
Yeah.
on in the last couple of
That
years.
sounds great. Oh, good luck with that.
Thank you.
And I know you've been in several films that people could look up and watch. Is there anything that you could say, oh, this is on Netflix now, this movie, or something like that? You could see
Well,
me, or
I
anything
have to
like that?
say the film I have done in the past, these are mostly independent films, and right now they're not airing on Netflix, or the
Mhm.
TV that I've done is not airing presently in the last couple of years. I haven't been able to really, there's been a limit to what I can do
Yeah.
with my agents,
Yeah.
Also for various reasons. So
Yeah.
that has actually been pressed, the pause button has
Mhm.
pressed, and I think
But I know you told me once I had a commercial for, was it Red Roof Inns? And that was your voice, and I believe I've heard
I've
that
done
commercial. There's
yeah.
so many commercials. Like,
Oh,
if
the
we hear a
commercials.
commercial right now,
Yeah.
what commercial would it be that would be yours?
Oh, okay. So I've done Walmart. I have a Walmart commercial. I have done Thai Airways. I've got those going. I've done a whole bunch for National University. I did a Jiffy Lube.
So if you
Brigham
hear,
and Women's in
if
Boston.
you hear a lovely voice of our lovely friend Linda, you might just say, oh, that's our friend Linda Fontaine.
Aw.
The thing is, you've got to be able to be flexible. I mean, you have to be, kind or funny, or, you've got to have the flexibility. And I imagine your acting training comes through in the voice work. Because if they say, okay, give me one that's a funny take, or give me one that's a serious take, or a sad, you can switch on, those talents and those chops that, other people wouldn't be able to pull. And do you use that in your voiceover?
Well, absolutely. Voiceover has been something that has been not only great fun, but has allowed me at times when I wasn't able, for example, during this pandemic, to do on camera, to use the voice acting training that I've had, plus the years on stage in Chicago, etc. But
Mhm.
I'd like to say this for those who would like to do voiceover. The market is so open right now and so very different than when I first arrived in Los Angeles. It is work that you can do from home. You set up a microphone and a fairly soundproof studio, or very soundproof studio, depending on your budget, and you can actually audition from home and send it all over the world. This did not happen when I first moved out here. I used to have to drive for jobs to San Diego, and now it's just all from my homemade
That's convenient.
voiceovers.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing is to invest the time and a certain amount of your budget into training.
Yeah.
Training before you make the voiceover demos. One needs demos for commercial, for sure. That's one that you start with. And if you're interested in other fields like the animation, narration, promos, audiobooks is a whole different field that you can do even without doing commercials or anything else. But doing what the due diligence with training is going to make a world of difference, because once you put that demo out there, you are in lineup with those that are the very best and have been working for many moons
Mhm.
in Los Angeles
Mhm.
and New York and the big voiceover places in the world.
Mhm.
You can work in Los Angeles now, you can work in small regional markets, you can have an agent in New York. It's become global.
Yeah. In a way, that's easier, but in a way, it's also harder because you're competing against everyone in the world instead of just, okay, we've got to get a voiceover actress in Los Angeles, so the competition probably is stiff too.
There is
I would imagine.
a lot of people doing it, a lot of jobs too, and
Mhm.
one should never think that you are limiting yourself. There are also pay to play sites, which
Mhm.
I have never used, but there's some that you have to watch out for
Yeah.
because what you really want to do is train with really good people.
Mhm.
And I'd like to recommend at least a couple
Yeah,
for
please.
someone to start with. Certainly, if you contact Voice Tracks West in Studio City, they're the
Mhm.
most divine people. They will help you with
Good.
the tech setup,
Uh-huh.
and they have classes there.
Perfect.
I
yeah.
just took a workshop, Joy, for example, with SAG on Zoom 2 days ago with a woman named Kay Bess, who I'd never had worked with before, and I thought she was the kindest, most generous person. So she has a
Awesome.
website.
Uh-huh.
That's Kay
What's her
Bess.
website? K-Bess.
Kay Bess. I think if you just Google her,
B-E-S-S?
Bess. If you Google her name,
Probably get
you didn't-
voiceover training, yeah.
Yeah, you can get voiceover training. So there are so many great people, and there are people that I know not of because there are many.
Yeah.
So those are two. Mark Grau, who I first came to know.
How do you spell his name?
Mark, MarcGrau, is in Burbank. He does classes. He's excellent for, I think he does mostly animation. He's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Oh, cool.
He's very, very, very excellent, and he's done major projects at his
Cool.
studio. So those are just a couple.
Yeah, well, that's very helpful. If anyone in our audience or knows someone that is interested in that, pursuing that, definitely, that's very, very helpful. Okay, any website you want to mention or final words? We're going to have to wrap up a little here.
Okay, so thank you. Yes, I have, it's Linda Fontaine. That is my Instagram handle. And I also have a website for my writing right now is lindafontaine.com.
Awesome. I don't know if I've seen that. I have to check that out.
Okay.
I know she's on the Internet Movie Database. If you look
I
at
am,
Linda Fontaine, there's a
IMDb.
lot of Linda Fontaines, but you can see, what a picture of her looks like on the Instagram, then go over and say, oh, that's the same Linda Fontaine.
Or her twin.
Yeah, that's it. But that is fabulous. It sounds very interesting, and I'm very, very happy that you've kept up your creativity in the pandemic. So many were just, shouldered with this terrible burden, and it sounds like, no, I'm going to pivot and just keep going and get my, writing done and this, and it's just fabulous to hear. And a very talented family. Your husband is also in voiceover,
He
right?
is.
So it's the
He's
three
just
of them that are just
front
off
of the
the
mic.
scales with talent. So we're wrapping up here. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, my special guest, Linda Fontaine. You can go to lindafontaine.com for her website and also her other resources online. And this is Joy Bennett wishing you a good evening. If you want more information about me, you can go to joybennett.com. And the website for this podcast is awordwithjoy.com. Any questions or comments, you can get a hold of me through the website there. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you again, Linda.
Thank you. It's
And
a joy to be with you, Joy.
Thank you. And have a very good evening. We very much appreciate your help.